Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome here to the William Seneca Building on the Cattaraugus territory of the Seneca Nation. Just want to give a brief statement in regards to the governor's visit today. We really appreciate the opportunity to have the governor here on our territory. We were able to meet with the governor and have a good 30-minute conversation with her, and then she went down to our council chamber and then met with survivors and family members and talked to them about their experiences here at the Thomas Indian School, and then also the intergenerational trauma that affected some of the family members, or all of them really, here short time ago. So what we're doing here now, I guess just giving an opportunity for media here to be able to ask a few questions. And so, Claudine, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the governor came to the territory, this was a long time coming. You speak with some of the survivors, and they would even say they wish for this day, but how much does it mean? How much does it mean to you? Because some of your family members were at the Thomas Indian School.
Yeah, you know, it's significant for me because my father was at the Thomas Indian School. It's, you know, we're here on the Cattaraugus territory. My father was former president of the Seneca Nation. We're in a building that was dedicated in his honor back in 1985. And, you know, and just as I said earlier, this is sacred ground that we're on. You know, the atrocities that occurred here all those many years ago, and for the governor to come and apologize on behalf of the state for what happened here, I think offers the opportunity for us to continue that process of healing. And I think it also shows that this governor has compassion and cares about our people, the Seneca people. As she said, she's from this area. This is her home in this region. And so to have her come here is very significant for us.
Do you think this will bridge the gap on other issues as well? I mean, this is a huge step. So do you think this will help bridge the gap on other important issues for this nation? I
believe so. I believe, you know, it's a part of advocacy, is a part of engagement. What we've been doing in Albany and in Washington as well. And so, yeah, these types of small steps lead us to resolve the bigger problems that we have and the bigger issues that we face. And only by working together, being at the table, and to have communication and dialogue, can we get those things done. And certainly focusing on what today is about, but also realizing that this type of a visit can lead to better relationships. And the governor is committed to that. In the times that I've sat and talked with her, she is committed to working together with us, and with respect to us and respecting our sovereignty.
President Seneca, yes. 3 years ago I was here, and there was a sign that I got that was being passed around that said, "Hochul promotes lies and extortion, economic racism." And this was after the move to freeze your bank accounts. And some people have suggested that this is, you know, she's a flawed messenger. Is the bad blood between the Seneca Nation and Governor Hochul over because of what happened today?
I think it's a part, again, of a healing process. It's the governor that's coming forward, able to articulate her compassion and her feelings in regards to something that has occurred many, many years ago. Many of us in this room weren't here at that time. And but we also we feel the effects of that, and the state, no matter who's in the executive chamber, bears that responsibility in regards to what happened in the state. And so she stepped forward to make amends and try to build better relationship with us.
Did it take so long because you were the first in the nation to ask, or did other past presidents ask the state to?
I don't know if they've asked in the past, but when we were getting ready for our first meeting with the governor in my administration here, we sat down, the council and I, and we discussed the important issues at hand, and really to send a message that we're more than a gaming tribe. We have many other issues that we need to be dealt with, and so that's what we did, put together an agenda that we went there And this was the top issue on my agenda when we went there. And, and here we are 2 months later with the governor here on our territory.
When then President Joe Biden apologized for the federal government's role about 7 months back, you took some flack from people in the Native community for not using terms like genocide or ethnic cleansing. Kathy Hochul did use the term ethnic cleansing today. Is the language and messaging on that important for you?
It certainly is. I think by the words that she spoke today, it really reached deep into that. And, it's words that are powerful and strong that we recognize. And for her to say that means a lot.
You do also have significant gaming operations, and the compact has dragged on now for the renewal, has dragged on for 18 months. What impact will this have? And are you still sort of upset that hasn't happened?
No, I'm not upset. There's a process. What happened in the past, we can't change. We had an agreement in terms, a term sheet that failed to get moved forward because of a certain, dynamics that was going on at the time. But maybe, I always believe things happen for a reason. And so I think in this administration, we've been very active, engaging, building a foundation to be able to accomplish that. And I think, one thing my dad always told me is that we have to take these small steps and we have to exercise patience. Patience is probably the most difficult thing that we have to be able to harness. And if we have patience, we have a commitment and a process to follow, we can get it done, and we will.
The healing process somewhat was laid out in the federal government's release after talking about monuments, education, payment for language classes on reservations. Is there a hope there that, I know the governor did announce that education element, right, K through 12 schools. Is there a hope or a thought that there's more than that?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have to push for more. I think money's geared towards on-territory language programs and culture, because that's what they tried to take away from our people, was our culture and our heritage and our language. And so, the discussion will be about the state earmarking dollars to be able to send to the Seneca Nation to work on specific programs on territory. And that's what we're going to fight for.
The lady from the state, can you kind of explain how that's going to work, the education part of it?
I'm sorry?
The woman from the state, did she talk about how it's going to
That's for Elizabeth. Question for Elizabeth.
What's that?
Question for Elizabeth.
Oh,
That's what he's asking.
okay. The question is for Elizabeth?
Yes. Can she
Oh,
talk
okay,
about
yeah.
education?
Everybody done with me? All right. I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Rule, Dr. Elizabeth Rule. She's the Deputy Secretary of First Nations for the governor. Elizabeth?
Well, thank you, President Seneca, for having Governor Hochul and representatives from the executive chamber here on Seneca land in New York. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's truly historic what happened today. It is the first time a sitting governor of New York State has visited this territory, and we're just delighted that she was able to come here to learn about the Seneca people, both historically and in the contemporary moment. One of the most important things about boarding schools is that this is not merely a historic issue. As Governor Hochul discussed, there are effects that continue to ripple through families. And we saw today, we heard from survivors and alumni from the Thomas Indian School about their own personal experiences, the experiences of their families, and alongside the hardships that they have suffered, also the strength that they've exhibited in changing the narrative for the future generations. And what happened here today was also a step in changing that narrative of the relationship between New York State and the Seneca Indian Nation by having this apology.
Elizabeth, so I know you met with some of the survivors and the day school attendees of the Thomas Indian School, and you heard about a lot of the pain that many of them went through, and even as descendants. But also there's the pain among the Senecas on the territory today from the economic paralysis that happened. What's the message there?
Absolutely. There are a variety of issues that the state is dedicated to working on with Seneca Nation leadership. What happened today was one part of a much broader plan of engagement between the Executive Chamber and the Seneca Nation, as well as other Indigenous nations across the state. And so this is one step, and we recognize that in the same way that one apology, one engagement doesn't and can't undo that pain and that hurt, the trauma and the consequences of that, we also understand that one event around this subject is not the totality of issues that affect Indigenous nations. What Governor Hochul did today was demonstrate that she's willing to take those steps, address those issues, and this is one part of a broader engagement that has been ongoing and that will continue.
But is there a acknowledgement of the economic injustice done to the Seneca Nation?
I think what we heard again today is that boarding schools are part of a larger process of assimilation and dispossession of Indigenous peoples from their lands, from their identities. And this, again, is one piece, and we're working on all of those pieces because we see that they work together.
So how are you going to work out that educational part?
Yes, so the educational piece that Governor Hochul mentioned was a dedication as part of her 2025 State of the State commitments and policies, as well as the budget. And what that education piece is going to be geared toward is the development of educational materials for K through 12 learners across the state to have the opportunity to learn about Indigenous histories, Indigenous cultures, and Indigenous peoples today. Governor Hochul is really committed to making sure that we understand that Indigenous peoples are neighbors to New Yorkers, and we need to work collaboratively. We need to understand more about each other. This visit today was a prime example of the governor herself taking that step to learn, right? By coming here, she was able to engage and hear the Seneca language being spoken, witness some of the ceremonial and cultural practices in action, and that is a process of education that's so central to that relationship that she is dedicated to carrying out in policy. One thing I really want to emphasize is that we will rely heavily on engagement with Indigenous nations in the creation of those materials. We want those voices to come forward the way that we wanted those voices of survivors to come forward today by telling their stories. We want those voices, those perspectives to come forward. And for too long, those voices have been silenced, and we want to bring them forward through partnership and collaboration.
Elizabeth, can you describe a little bit, or JC, whoever would be best to describe, like what happened today? So she met, how many people did she meet with? What do you remember that she said to them, or they said to her? And then when she walked out, did she walk past those, the display out there? Like what did she see today and do, basically, briefly, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. President Seneca, I'll maybe allow you to walk us through the day, but I can say that, yes, on her way out to give the remarks, she took time and stopped at those informational displays. She was able to see some of the incredibly impactful photographs, right, from that time, from those children. The people we heard from today are, elderly, they're elders, and they carry forward a really important message, but it also added so much, and I want to thank the Seneca Nation for creating that visual opportunity for education too, to see a little bit of insight into what it looked like for those students as children to be at the school as well. So that was a tremendous addition. I want to thank the nation. President Seneca, maybe you can tell us more about the proceedings of the day.
No, it was great. The governor was able to come upstairs here into our conference room. We met with the council and the governor, and we had a really good conversation about that, about the history of Thomas Indian School, a lot of different things. And also we had the placards downstairs for the governor to be able to view and go through, and she did. And I believe her staff also took pictures of each of those so that she was able to then when she gets back to her office to then look at those as well to make sure she has that. We also gave her a packet of information in regards to Thomas Indian School history, Seneca Nation Constitution, and all these different things. So to make sure that she knows and understands who we are and what we're all about. And that's basically what we've did today. And then also she met with our survivors and families down in the council chamber.
President Seneca, the word reparations comes up so often, but did that come up at all?
No, and I think, in discussions moving forward, reparation-wise, again, we talk about education, about the state earmarking money to come to have effect here on territory in our language programs, and that's something that I want to push forward and to be able to bring here.
Is it important that you basically made over that campus with road stuff?
I'm sorry?
You made the campus, that building, big building's gone, and you basically made over this whole area with modern stuff for your people?
Well, the campus that we're on, Thomas Indian School, it still exists. It's here. And whether we build new buildings on it, the memories and the things that occurred here are still relevant today. Our people still feel that pain from those times, and our generations of today are still suffering from the atrocities that occurred here. Buildings can't replace that. This land will always be sacred. It'll always be a memory of what occurred here. Going back to President Kelly John back in the early 90s, he made a statement. He says, let this not be forgotten what happened here on this territory here, on this campus. And I think, we always have to remember that, and we have to educate not only the outside communities, but our people about what has occurred here on our territory.
Dr. Rule, while certainly boarding residential schools probably some of the most debilitating aggressions towards the Seneca Nation, Seneca people will say aggressions from the state continue, right? You have the state threw away the issues with that, court battles constantly, the freezing of the Seneca Nation bank accounts that were supposedly going to pay for the Bill Stadium. I've heard it really just went to a general fund. Does the governor recognize that those aggressions can still continue and need to be realized?
There are a variety of issues, as you point out, that the Seneca Nation faces, as well as other indigenous nations across New York. It is, in fact, a nation, and so there are a variety of topics related to environment, education, health. The list goes on, and that's because they are a nation. And so, again, today's event was really dedicated to the memory, to the survivors, and to addressing the very specific issue of issuing an apology on behalf of New York State for the state's role in the operation of the Thomas Indian School. But again, this is part of a much broader commitment to work with the nation and other nations as well on a variety of topics across New York State. There's a lot of work to be done. This was one step in the right direction, but again, Governor Hochul is committed to making sure that that work continues. And again, I just want to thank again the nation for welcoming Governor Hochul, for having me. It was a pleasure to meet with the survivors, with members of the nation. I want to thank the people that came out to witness this historic event and everyone who aided in the organization to make this happen. So thank you again.
Thank you. All right, well, that concludes our press conference, and we appreciate everybody coming here and attending, and thank you so much for being here. Appreciate that.